Season 5 is everything I wanted and more. Ah! Whew. Okay, let me compose myself. Cobra Kai Season 5 was the best love letter the big three have done so far to the iconic Karate Kid franchise. We saw characters that we thought would never interact with each other and in scenarios only we could have dreamed of, but it just worked together so well. We've seen rivalries come to an end, unlikely team-ups, and non-stop action that has kept my interest the whole time. There are so many things I want to do and write about, but for now, this is what you missed in Cobra Kai Season 5. I'll break these down episode by episode, and it's obvious that there will be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the series yet, go watch it and come back. Episode 1's title, Long Long Way From Home, has a few meanings. It can refer to Chozen being far from Okinawa to aid Daniel, Miguel being away from home to look for his father, and Johnny and Robbie being away to look for Miguel. When Terry Silver is narrating his what we assume to be Cobra Kai commercial, it's interesting to note that the font and symbols they're using are straight out of Detroit Become Human. We also see some Season 4 flashbacks to the All Valley tournament when Silver starts talking about Tori, the first female champion. This commercial also echoes some of the same things Terry would say before the All Valley tournament in Karate Kid Part 3, putting on a front of how he used self-confidence and inner peace to transform his students into champions. When Amanda sees Chozen swimming naked, this is somewhat similar to the Karate Kid Part 2, where Chozen was also lacking a piece of clothing when talking to Kumiko after beating Daniel. Miguel arriving in Mexico for the first time, assumingly this is his first trip, is a nice parallel to Daniel making it to Okinawa for the first time back in Karate Kid 2, even down to where he got scammed by Chozen, who welcomed him into Okinawa, just like Miguel getting robbed by the scammers who welcomed him into Mexico. Robbie accompanying Johnny would also be a nice nod to this movie, as it's similar to Miyagi being accompanied by Daniel to settle a family affair, which is what Johnny is doing. When Daniel talks to Sam about closing the Miyagi-Do dojo, he talks about how this isn't about a tournament anymore, this is real life, echoing what Mr. Miyagi told him when he fought Chozen in Okinawa. When Miguel visits who he assumes to be Hector, the shot is very similar to the Karate Kid Part 3, where Mike Barnes meets Terry Silver in his mansion for the first time. Speaking of the film, when Johnny and Robbie are talking in the van discussing their plan on how to find him, this is similar to where Daniel asks Miyagi what they're going to do after Mike Barnes destroyed the shop. While fixing the flat tire, Robbie and Johnny talk about the time when Robbie stole the van and lived in it, and how Johnny and Daniel fought against goons in the chop shop. Kenny is seen handing out flyers for Cobra Kai, promoting it like former member Snake would when selling t-shirts at the 85 All Valley. We see another flashback as Chozen observes Silver sparring in the window, identical to the shot where Kreese observes Silver sparring in his home. While it can be a simple defensive dodge, Johnny is using the same type of Miyagi-Do dodge he used when avoiding Silver's kick back in Season 4. He also smashes a radio in this scene, a nice nod to what he did to Ali in 1984, as both fights take place on the beach. We see an opposite of what typically occurred in the Karate Kid movie as far as backstories, where Miguel finds his supposed family and has both parents and a sibling in his life, whereas Daniel and Johnny would seek out one missing piece of the family instead of a whole family. The scene then cuts to a parallel where Robbie and Johnny are bonding together finally as a family, with Robbie finally having his father in his life. As Silver is seeking out a new sensei for Cobra Kai, we see the Locust Valley Karate Sensei, the school that produced notable students Daryl Vidal and Post, who fought Miguel in the 2019 All Valley. We also see that Chozen is infiltrating Cobra Kai as one of these senseis applying, similar to Silver's elaborate plot in the Karate Kid Part 3. Episode 2, Mole, is a reference to Chozen being a mole within Cobra Kai, despite the look of how it's spelled, as the E is silent. The first scene shows Okinawa in 1972 as we see a familiar logo, the emblem of Sato's dojo, and realize that this is Sato teaching US military his own style of Miyagi-Do. We see how hard Sato is on a young Chozen, specifically referencing how high he holds honor and whether he wants to be a man or a coward, two specific topics brought up frequently in Karate Kid Part 2. This establishes why Chozen acted the way he did in that film, taking shortcuts when he could to avoid doing hard work. As Miguel is talking to Hector, he mentions the All Valley Championship he won in 2018. Hector invites Miguel out so he doesn't leave Mexico without a few good stories, a parallel to what Johnny told Robbie in the prior episode on how they came to Mexico. When Tori asks Chozen what matters to him most, he responds with honor, proving true what Miyagi said about honor being very serious in Okinawa. Robbie participating in the pepper eating contest is a nod to Daniel breaking the 6 ice blocks in 1985, down to both using the Miyagi-Do breathing technique. We also see Tori finally confronting Silver about the ref, referencing the scene where Tori saw them talking in the office after the tournament in the season 4 finale. When Johnny asks Robbie if he's alright while chugging milk, he responds with the quote Rocky Balboa says after defeating Clubber Lang, "Never better." At the club, Hector and Miguel share a drink in a twisted copy of Daniel and Miyagi drinking together in Karate Kid. Chozen tells Daniel about honor and how his childhood he used cowardice and cheating to get what he wanted, echoing what Tori is feeling right now, and also explaining some of his actions in 1985. When Chozen arrives at Silver's house, he is greeted by Terry's butler, mirroring the same entrance Kreese made when he visited Terry. At dinner, Chozen mentions that his father died at an early age and had a surrogate father in his uncle, mirroring the situations of multiple characters who found fathers in other people in the Miyagi-verse. He also subtly mentions his fight with Daniel in 1985, in passing in the same conversation. There is some irony when Hector says people aren't always what they seem, speaking the exact thoughts racing through Miguel's head as he sees through the facade Hector put on earlier and realizes his mother was right about him. When Johnny fights with Vicente, he strikes his nose with the quick punch, learning from Daniel who did the same thing to him back on the beach in the first film. We also see Robbie employing part of the Quicksilver method, a man can't see, he can't fight, as he gives Johnny El Dragon to use on Vicente. One of my personal favorite moments of the episode is where Chozen takes out all the other Valley senseis as a nice callback to Daniel witnessing him taking out multiple students while instructing a class in Sato's dojo. We even see Chozen use his Miyagi teachings to use someone as a shield to be hit, just like Mr. Miyagi did in the next Karate Kid at the gas station. Chozen issuing the challenge to Silver and leaving is also a nice nod to Mr. Miyagi doing what he did to Kreese, and also warns Silver to stay away from the LaRusso family as an homage to Leave the Boy Alone. Episode 3's title, Playing with Fire, is the iconic line from the trailer that Silver tells to Daniel in this episode's very opening scene. We see a nice few callbacks to the original movies when Louis confronts Chozen about his golf playing skills. Chozen pockets his money and mentions it was beginner's luck, a quote from the first movie, but also referencing the second movie where Daniel Miyagi won a bet after being challenged to break ice blocks. Chozen also states that his honor is insulted, another nod to Karate Kid 2, but showing that he's joking in a reveal compared to Season 3 when he honked Daniel's nose. Anush calls Silver a Bond villain, referencing the classic franchise that also has its own memorable villains. Johnny cleans the graffiti off of the van and remarks how it should be illegal, bringing it back full circle when he defaced the LaRusso Auto billboard in Season 1. When Sam and Anthony talk in the beginning of the episode, Anthony explains that the milk prank on Kenny was used with the bag and also asks if another one of your boyfriends ran away, referencing Robbie disappearing after the school fight in Season 2. When Daniel thinks of an old friend Terry Silver can call, Daniel recalls the events of Karate Kid Part 3 as we see a montage of Mike Barnes. We see Hawk change his tattoo once again, this time into a lotus flower, as he explains it symbolizes enlightenment, symbolizing his journey from Cobra Kai to Miyagi-Do. As Miguel is asking for help from both Dimitri and Eli, we see Sam going through the same thing, though with Yasmin and Moon. A humorous exchange that Daniel and Chozen have is how he can't forgive Mike Barnes for almost killing him, where Chozen looks surprised. Carmen reveals that Miguel was a surprise baby, as Johnny confides in her how he was scared when Robbie was also an unplanned pregnancy. Another parallel between the trios is seen where Moon takes Sam and Yasmin to a spa to help her figure out who she is, while Miguel and the boys look at jewelry because he can't stop thinking about Sam. Miguel picks out an octopus as a nod to the stuffed animal Sam picked out on their Nada date. Daniel brings back an old habit by sneaking into the furniture store, just how he snuck into the Encino Oaks Country Club. He overhears Mike talking about wanting 50%, the same negotiation he made with Silver in regards to owning Cobra Kai in Karate Kid 3. When Daniel snatches the phone away from him, he calls Mike a shithead, the same insult Mike called him when it was revealed he was working with Terry all along. As Johnny is renovating his apartment for the baby, he cleans out the fridge and smells that the meat he had in his fridge is bad, echoing back to what Sid told him in Season 1, which might be the same exact meat knowing Johnny. Mike Barnes explains how he ended up owning the furniture store and why he had no direction. It wasn't until he met his own Mr. Miyagi and his father-in-law that he was finally set on the right path and realized the errors of his ways. Similar to how Mr. Miyagi wanted to care and cultivate bonsais, Mike developed a hobby and appreciation for furniture to help bring families together. As Sam is in the self-actualization pod, she confronts her inner demons, including a face-off with the dark aspect of her mind. How the scene plays out probably isn't a direct reference, but it does remind me of the mirror scene from Enter the Dragon, where Lee is constantly looking at his surroundings to anticipate his enemy. Sam facing her dark aspect could also be how Chozen represented the dark aspect of Miyagi-Do in Karate Kid Part 2, as Daniel and Chozen were opposite sides of the same coin. When Chozen misinterprets Mike Barnes in a stance against Daniel, he kicks him and causes him to land on the table, mirroring Mike kicking Daniel into the shoji screen in Karate Kid Part 3. As Mike gets into his classic stance, Chozen stands on the same side that Daniel did, while Mike is on the right as seen in their tournament fight. Chozen also blocks Mike the same way Miyagi did during Daniel and Mike's first fight. When Miguel asks Johnny for advice regarding Sam, Johnny ironically mentions that Dimitri probably would have a girlfriend that's a real looker, not knowing he's dating the most popular girl in school. This scene also mirrors Miyagi and Daniel celebrating the latter's birthday, as he gave him advice on how to deal with Allie. When attempting to help Daniel take down Silver, he mentions the contract he had to sign that promised him half of Cobra Kai and to also defeat Daniel at the All Valley. Chozen also buys a couch for Mike Barnes, solving his bed and back problems he had at the start of the episode. Although we never saw this scene play out in the original Karate Kid movies, Sam and Miguel breaking up could be a nod to Allie breaking up with Johnny, as he explained to Miguel in Season 1 that they had a fight and broke up before senior year. This could also be a nod to Daniel and Allie breaking up during the senior prom, which also took place near the start of the summer in 1985. We see a nice transition as Johnny is hanging up a picture frame, mirroring the shot of Miyagi hammering a nail into the fence in Karate Kid Part 2. As Johnny resolves to make things right by Carmen by being around more, this is a parallel of what happened before with Sam and Miguel, though ending on a happy note. As Silver confronts Daniel in the steam room, he's wearing the towel around his neck and waist just like he did when he talked to Kreese about his revenge plan against Daniel and Miyagi. As Mike's store is set on fire, this is a nod to the same film where Mike, Dennis, and Snake wrecked the shop and stole the bonsai trees. Episode 4's title, Downward Spiral, is what Kreese said that Johnny would go down if he lost the fight against Daniel in the All Valley when they talked in Season 4 Episode 10, The Rise. Carmen's faucet is busted and she calls for Johnny to help fix it, a nod to the original Karate Kid where Daniel set out Miyagi to fix their faucet. Johnny shows up in a flight suit, referencing Top Gun, which is a movie Carmen loves as noted in Season 4, and we see a dream sequence play out similar to the Top Gun volleyball scene as Kenny Loggins playing with the boys plays in the background, the same song Johnny also sang while drunk when Miguel helped him to bed in the episode Party Time. This dream sequence also mirrors Johnny's dream sequence from Season 2. Daniel's light blue suit is similar to the same type of blue suit he wore for the senior prom. When Shannon visits Johnny as he's trying to interview for jobs, he says get your own, a nod to where Shannon lied to him at the bar when she was looking for a job in Season 1. Robbie convincing Tori to leave mirrors how Daniel tried to save Robbie from Cobra Kai in the convenience store. When Kyler tells Kenny that Robbie is officially out of Cobra Kai, we can tell that he feels let down just how Sean went away to juvie and left him on his own. Dimitri works for Tech Town, the same store where Robbie impersonated a worker named Eduardo. Kyler not recognizing Anthony is the same thing Johnny did in the previous season, even though Kyler had met Anthony before his weight loss, mentioning the time he dated Sam. Silver plays his classic manipulation tactics again, as he convinces Amanda that Daniel was the aggressor, putting on the same facade he did in Mr. Miyagi. Johnny reliving himself while working as a rideshare driver is a nice reference to one of my favorite comedic films, Dumb and Dumber, as Lloyd Christmas does the same thing before getting pulled over. When Tori and Hawk agree to the race, the groups walk away as Robbie is left standing there, symbolizing how he's not currently affiliated with any dojo. As Daniel presents the bonsai trees as his donated items, he mentions that caring for them with love makes them grow strong roots, and will let them choose their own way to grow, mirroring Mr. Miyagi telling Daniel the same thing back in 1985. As Silver is giving his speech for purchasing the bonsai trees, he talks about how he will give free classes to low-income students, making good on his promise that he told to Daniel and Mr. Miyagi after fighting the latter. Lyle, the pawn shop owner, makes a return, having not been seen since Season 3. On his shelf, we can also spot an original model PlayStation in the background. Lyle also mentions him owning multiple locations, a nod to the secret pawn shop levels in the Cobra Kai game that are in the major story levels. Robbie trying to get through to Kenny is once again mirroring what Daniel told him in Season 4, even referencing the tournament fight where Robbie went all out. The cheater talk seems to affect Tori, referencing her internal conflict and the talk about honor she and Chozen had. Hawk counterattacks Kenny by holding his leg and striking it, similar to the illegal strike that Johnny did to Daniel, and and the same attack Robbie used on Miguel in the school fight. Daniel knocking over Terry where he's breaking the bonsai symbolizes how Daniel is no longer in touch with his Miyagi-Do roots. Miguel shoving Robbie is a nod to Johnny doing the same thing to Daniel in 1984, and how Miguel also shoved Robbie at the lake party in season 1. Robbie breaking up with Tori also mirrors how Miguel and Sam also broke up in the prior episode. Episode 5's title, Extreme Measures, is the second half of the classic quote uttered by Terry Silver when training Daniel in 1985. We see the return of Stingray, who is a lot healthier than when we last saw him at the end of season 4. Tori going all out on the dummy is another nod to Daniel's training when he started hitting the wooden dummy over and over. We also finally see what happened to Johnny's car after being abandoned on the beach in season 2. Silver bought it from an impound lot. Daniel looking at a picture of his family and then starting to drink mirrors when Miyagi would drink to remember his family every anniversary. We find out that Amanda and the kids are visiting Ohio, revealing that is where she's originally from and that her cousin is Jessica Andrews, who later reveals it was her that played matchmaker for the two. Jessica even has some mac and cheese prepared for Daniel, something he was quite obsessive over in the third film. Johnny creating a faux escape room mirrors another one of his unorthodox training, or a strategy that Miyagi would use, with the theme and music being ripped straight out of Young Guns 2. Daniel starts to give in to his hothead tendencies, with the roles being switched with Chosen being the voice of reason. Chosen even mentions that Stingray has a ninja level gaming station, referencing the popular streamer. Jessica reveals she still climbs as a hobby, something we witnessed both her and Daniel doing when they tried to unearth the bonsai tree Miyagi hid in Devil's Cauldron. We also learn Amanda's maiden name is Steiner, and they meet her bullies that made fun of her for attacking her math tutor's car. Amanda previously mentioned girls being bullies and rough with her all the way back in season 1, with the math tutor incident explained in season 4. Johnny tells Daniel that he's leaving well enough alone, his famous repeated line he uttered to Daniel when he confronted him on Halloween in the first Karate Kid film. For a brief moment, Daniel and Johnny switch personalities as the former snaps using the Eagle Fang approach, and the latter calms him down, offering to listen to his troubles. As Daniel begins to lay out his troubles, we hear Johnny's motif being played on a Miyagi pan flute. A video of Anthony being kicked into the lazy river at the water park goes viral, mirroring how the pranks Anthony played on Kenny went viral in the prior season. Jessica also stands up for Daniel and reveals Silver's true nature, sticking up for him and relaying what Silver did to Daniel in 1985. At the same time, Johnny relates his own problem to Daniel, and they both mention to each other that they will get through their troubles as good husbands and good father figures. When Amanda and Jessica are confronted by Elizabeth Ann Rooney, the girl who Jessica's boyfriend cheated on her with mentioned in Karate Kid Part 3, this brawl parallels the fight Johnny and the old Cobra Kai gang get into in Season 2. Johnny also listens to Daniel for once and advises Robbie and Miguel to fight it out, letting out another classic as the fight goes upstairs of the apartment complex, mirroring Miguel and Robbie's school fight. However, just like before, Miguel once again shows mercy and explains why he held back in the prior major fight they had, with Robbie explaining that he wanted to finish the fight, as the two forgive each other, squashing the rivalry. We also see Miguel finally getting the family he wanted, a father, a mother, and a brother. For the first time compared to all prior interactions, Sam and Anthony get along, with Sam earning Anthony's respect. Daniel looking for Stingray mirrors how Daniel looked for Silver in Karate Kid Part 3, once again being lured into a trap as Silver enters the same way. Daniel uses his Cobra Kai stance that he learned at first in the fight, being headbutt by Silver just like Johnny taught headbutts, then switching into the offensive Miyagi-Do stance shared by Chosen. Silver even calls Daniel Danny Boy during this fight, and Daniel pins Silver against the wall just like Johnny did in his own fight, but accidentally bloodies his knuckle and remembers his training with Silver, switching back into his Cobra Kai stance. Silver places his foot on Daniel, just like Mike Barnes did to him as part of Silver's ruse. After doing so, he mentions that the real pain is about to begin, the same thing he said to Daniel while he was fighting Barnes in the tournament. We see Silver punching a dummy, similar to how he did so in the beginning of the episode Minefields. Tori asks Kreese if there is an endgame, a nod to the Avengers movie that was notable for its crossover of many characters, similar to how this season has its plethora of characters. The episode 6 title, Ouroboros, has a few different meanings. The literal definition is that it is a circular symbol of commonly either a snake or a dragon devouring itself, symbolizing the eternal cycle of destruction and rebirth. It is also the name of the song played during the Season 3 finale, where Robbie attacks Johnny, Kreese attacks Johnny from behind, intercut with flashbacks of fighting Captain Turner, and Daniel fighting Kreese. Silver offers Kim Da-eun 50% of the dojo, the same percentage Mike asked Silver for as a negotiation. Daniel giving up on the fight against Silver echoes back to how he was given into fear during his fight with Barnes. Daniel even hides his face with sunglasses, using similar aviators to cover his black eye on the first day of school. We also see that after Eagle Fang dissolved, da-eun joined Topanga Karate, the dojo of former champion Xander Stone. Sensei Odell, portrayed by MMA fighter Tyron Woodley, is a nod to Tony Odell, notable for playing Johnny's friend Jimmy. Johnny mentions his classic "No Be There" line made famous in Season 4, showing he understands the original meaning that Miyagi meant. Kreese mentions to the counselor that "you could throw me right through a window and there'd not be a scratch," a nod to his fight with Daniel in Season 3. da-eun and Tori bond as they both have and had mothers who were sick, confirming that Tori's mother also possibly has cancer. Tori also teaches da-eun to channel her anger, the same advice she learned from Kreese, which she also told Robbie. Johnny and Chosen one-up each other and bond over their experiences with Daniel, while also talking about the good things about him. In therapy, Kreese is forced to confront his demons, including Betsy, Captain Turner, Terry Silver, Tori, a young Johnny wearing his clothes from Karate Kid Part 2, and realizes the good part within him, his younger self. After Chosen and Johnny fight Yan Wu, Chosen says that Kim has too much advantage, their dojo, the same thing Miyagi said when Kreese challenges him to pit Daniel against Johnny in the first Karate Kid. Tori begins to take da-eun under her wing, echoing to how Robbie took Kenny under his wing. When Sam is talking to Amanda, Chosen, and Johnny, she mentions that she still has scars from karate, referencing her fight with Tori at school in Season 2. Kreese's inner Cobra awakens as we see young Kreese on screen, as the fitting song "Awake the Snake" plays, or rather a remix of it, a song from the Season 1 soundtrack. Kreese holds up the prisoner bothering him, asking if he has a problem with that, the same thing he said to Johnny in the finals of the '84 All Valley. In order to help Daniel heal, Amanda encourages him to enter Mr. Miyagi's room, as we see various items from the Karate Kid films, including Mrs. Miyagi's picture, the instructions on how to paint the house, the bonsai trimming kit, a shoji screen, and other bonsai. Amanda mentions that the night before they got married, Mr. Miyagi admired how much Daniel fought for what was right, and how he always believed in his family and friends. When Robbie also finally reconciles with Daniel, he mentions everything Daniel did for him, giving him a job, a place to stay, and a purpose, and also apologizes for his actions while in Cobra Kai, and how Daniel never failed him, addressing him as his sensei. When Daniel was greeted by his students and those willing to help him fight, they all bow to him, and the senseis bow back, echoing the Season 3 finale. Episode 7's title, Bad Eggs, refers to the training exercise Chosen puts Miyagi Fang through later on in the episode. As Daniel, Amanda, Johnny, and Chosen narrate the intro and mention that Silver has taken over the valley, this is echoing Silver's prophecy coming true, which he said to Daniel and Miyagi near the end of Karate Kid 3. da-eun calls Tori the Queen Cobra, the nickname she earned at the end of Season 4, and the name of the same song played during the finals match between Sam and Tori. Silver mentions that he likes that, to Kim Da-eun's idea, a quote uttered by both Kreese and himself in different films. Daniel and Johnny pay a visit to Kreese in prison, echoing how they visited Trey and Cruz, and Kreese visiting Robbie, both of those taking place in Season 3. When Samantha asks if Anthony knew how to use the wax-on, wax-off technique, he mentions that he paid someone to watch the cars, referencing the episode Minefields. Kreese mentioned that Silver bribed the DA, who could be the same Mr. Cole that he talked to Margaret about bribing. As Robbie and Hawk are both eliminated from the training exercise, they talk about their history on how Cobra Kai corrupted both of them, including Robbie giving Hawk a haircut, Hawk attacking Robbie, Sam and Dimitri at the mall, trashing the Miyagi dojo, and breaking Dimitri's arm. Dimitri once again settles the matter, similar to how he rallied the troops before the house invasion in Season 3. Anthony mentions the Dungeon Lord strategy, a game that Hawk, Dimitri, and Kenny also play, that helped them understand the strategy. da-eun is stubborn and refuses to cooperate with Tori, attempting to strike first, like her previous sensei Johnny. Chosen attempting to fight all the kids at once via training is similar to the Halloween fight, where Miyagi would take on all the Cobra Kai students at once. As Kreese tells Johnny and Daniel Silver's plans to enter the Sekai Taikai, we see that both trained under Master Kim Sung-young as Kim Da-eun watched on in 1980. We see Silver sporting an ascot, something he also wore in Karate Kid Part 3. Silver mentions buying the dojo for Kreese, also echoing the same thing Silver told him when Kreese came to turn the keys in. Kreese also talks about his newest student, Johnny Lawrence, who he thinks is also going to be the best student in Cobra Kai. Silver also says that our way will be the right way, echoing the same thing they talked about in the tattoo shop in the Season 4 flashback. Johnny and Daniel also serve Kreese a taste of his own medicine, No Mercy. Episode 8's title, Taikai, is the name of the tournament Silver strives to compete in. We see that Miyagi-Fang is officially reformed as Daniel, Johnny, Chosen, and Amanda stand together. Johnny mentions his mistake of forcing Miguel to compete, the cause of Miguel running away to Mexico. Chosen asks Critch and Mitch to demonstrate sand the floor, just like Miyagi did to Daniel in Karate Kid 1. Silver has Kenny breaking the boards, just like he did during the skills competition in the All Valley. Johnny attempts to replicate the history of Miyagi-Do, just like Mr. Miyagi did in Karate Kid Part 2, though he fails miserably. Silver mentions that they used the latest technology to track Kyler's movement, referencing Rocky IV where Drago would train with the latest technology. We cut to Sam practicing a similar kick in the warehouse, referencing Rocky's old school training in the same film. Johnny even mentions Rocky IV as well, running up a mountain in the snow, as the official yells Drago, who is also obviously a Rocky fan. Sam and Robbie perform the wheel technique together, the first time since Season 2. The officials decide to put the dojos to the test in a classic way. 2 3-point matches. We also see that Sam is feeling pressure from the tournament, the source of her conflict this season. Chosen and Daniel talk to her about the lesson behind Karate Kid Part 2. Daniel was fighting for honor, sensei, the village, Kumiko, which Sam must learn to fight for herself, not against her opponent. When Terry talks to Kenny, he talks about his old nickname Twig and also how he was an underdog. Silver teaches Kenny how to perform the silver bullet and responds to Kenny's compliment with, "You like that, huh?" The same way he responded to Daniel's admiration of the Quicksilver method. When Bert talks about the dojo, he mentions that it's a Cobra Starship, a pop band known for the song Snakes on a Plane, the theme song to a film that shares the same name. When Kim is advising Tori on how to beat Sam, this is similar to the same shot and conversation Kreese had with Tori in the All Valley. Kenny confronting Robbie is similar to the conversation where Daniel confronted Robbie at the All Valley in Season 4. Robbie also calms Hawk before his fight, just like Daniel reminded Hawk that the fight was about within and not against Robbie. Silver is up to his old tricks once again, as it's shown that he's bribed this referee as well. Hawk landed an attack on Kenny before going out of bounds, just like Sam did on Tori. Kenny gains his revenge and does the same attack Hawk did to him at the water park. Hawk limpbacks to the mat similar to Daniel did before the final point in the original Karate Kid movie. Hawk this time is standing where Johnny was, while Kenny is standing on the same side Daniel was, and performs the silver bullet, mirroring the scene where Daniel does the crane kick, down to Silver even doing a subtle nod just like Miyagi did. Hawk is on the mat similar to how Daniel was in Karate Kid Part 3, having trouble getting up at first. We see Tori is conflicted like Johnny and Bobby were with Kreese. When Sam goes back to the mat to face Devin, we see another slow-mo just like with Robbie and Hawk, and Sam and Tori in the prior tournament. Sam also does an evasive roll this time, and makes up for losing her fight against Tori, earning her own redemption. Sam and Daniel share a hug just like they did the last season, exchanging their classic Jersey Tough catchphrase in Season 1. Johnny and Daniel struggle to come up with a name, though both claim the opposite dojo, with Johnny saying "We are Miyagi-Do" and Daniel says "We are Eagle Fang." Johnny shares another Rocky IV moment with the official, referencing the "if I can change, you can change" speech that Rocky makes at the end of the film. As standard with every season, we see another party being thrown that usually occurs near the end of each season. Episode 9's title, Survivors, is more than likely a reference to the band Survivor, known for their song The Moment of Truth from the first Karate Kid film. To help celebrate Johnny and Carmen's pregnancy, Louis promises to make it up to Johnny, referencing when his car got set on fire. When Robbie talks to the Cobra Kai class, he says, "I should have taken you all with me," the same thing Miyagi said to Yukie in Karate Kid Part 2, and also says that there's another way, similar to how Johnny was trying to tell Daniel to avoid the point fight. We see the gang going out and drinking on the town, in a parallel to going out in Season 2. Louis makes a joke about the shot being like a kick to the face while looking at Johnny, referencing Daniel making fun of Johnny back in the very first episode of Cobra Kai. Daniel and Chosen talk about how the latter used to scam the villagers in the club, with Daniel even mimicking Chosen's "I will get" that he did on him back in Season 3. Johnny and Chosen talk about being held back on the past and their mistakes, and how to look forward. As part of the punishment, the senseis force Tori to break her hand on stone, in a cruel and twisted version of Daniel punching the wooden dummy, with Tori earning her own bloody knuckles. Chosen tells the waitress when Daniel walks over the time he broke 6 blocks of ice. Chosen reveals that he has a crush on Kumiko and how when they were young, they used to play hide and seek in the ruins of King Shawashi's castle. When the gang all dances together, Louis runs into Anush, who has been dating Louis' sister Vanessa, who was last seen helping Daniel and Amanda with Anthony. After dancing, Chosen leaves Kumiko a voicemail, similar to how Miyagi would write love letters to Yukie, and mentions to her that he should have taken her with him, the same thing Miyagi also told Yukie in Karate Kid Part 2. Sam, thanks to Miguel's advice, finally reaches out to Tori in the same manner where Daniel showed up reaching out to Johnny in Season 4 on working together. The episode ends with Johnny, Chozen, and Daniel singing Eye of the Tiger, known for being in the film Rocky III, prominently during the beginning and ending of the movie, where Rocky and Apollo, former rivals, put the past behind them as the three have done that now. Episode 10, Head of the Snake, refers to Daniel's strategy to Chozen that they must cut off the head of the snake. This also references to Terry Silver himself, the sole leader of Cobra Kai. We hear from Kreese that Johnny was the son he needed and attempts to turn over a new leaf to show mercy, though it ends in disaster. We find out Mike is the one who stole the vehicle as he holds Daniel by the shirt, just like in Karate Kid Part 3. Mike says, "You took everything from me," a nod to Daniel affecting his financial future. Johnny says that Mike doesn't look so bad to me, the same thing Chozen said to Daniel in episode 3. Johnny goes along with Mike's plan to attack Silver and how he got sucker kicked, referencing to Silver cheap-shotting Johnny in the episode Party Time. The attack on Terry's household is a parallel to Season 3, though this time it is Miyagi-Fang invading a Cobra Kai household. Mike yells Terry to get up, the same thing he yelled at Daniel in the finals of the '85 All Valley. As Stingray pulls up in his car, he tells Daniel, "Come with me if you want to live," a classic line from the Terminator franchise. When Chozen is fighting Silver, he demonstrates the same attack to the knee that he did on Daniel during their training. As Chozen gains the upper hand against Silver, we see him pointing the sai at him, similar to how Miyagi pinned Chozen with the spear in Karate Kid Part 2. As Kenny attempts to attack Robbie, Robbie attempts to go on the defensive and avoid attacking him, echoing how Johnny was on defense against Robbie in Season 3. After Kenny uses the silver bullet on Robbie, we see him and two other Cobra Kai members kicking Robbie until Miguel comes to intervene, mirroring how Miyagi saved Daniel on Halloween from a vicious kick. As Hawk said, Dimitri finally got his turn with Kyler, coming full circle how Kyler used to bully Dimitri. We see Chozen's training pay off as they protect the egg, the tablet that Anthony is holding. As Kim Da-eun has Tori pinned, we see Sam saving her, echoing back to Daniel saving Johnny from Kreese. We also see a callback to the training exercise with Devin and Tori teaming up again against Kim Da-eun. Stingray also solidifies his child-beating reputation, though this time fighting Cobra Kai instead of Miyagi-Do like he did in Season 2, even surveying the end of the fight just like Mr. Miyagi would. Although Silver tries to have his students listen to him, they only heard him, mirroring Silver telling Robbie the difference between heard and listened to. When Johnny is on the ground and sees the picture of his future child, it's clear that he remembers not only what Lau said about doing what's necessary for his family, but also how Silver says Cobra Kai makes winners, with Johnny being the best Cobra Kai student. We see Sensei Odell's pinky being cut off, a nod to the act Yubitsume, which is what Yakuza members do to atone for serious offenses, typically starting with the left hand, as we see here. Johnny also manages to throw one sensei into a TV, knocking it off the wall. Mike Barnes saving Johnny is also a nice little nod to Daniel saving Johnny's life from Kreese in Season 3. And the long-awaited showdown between Daniel and Silver, echoing to Miyagi facing Silver in Karate Kid Part 3, we see Daniel as calm as Mr. Miyagi was in that fight, and once again talks about the roots being strong so the tree will survive. A nod to Daniel and Miyagi repairing the tree. Daniel completely goes on the defensive and attacks when necessary. We hear Silver talking about Quicksilver in Karate Kid Part 3, as Daniel demonstrates it all via Miyagi-Do on Silver, doing the same arm lock Silver did on him to cause him not to stand, then punching him in the face to try to blind him to have him choke on his own blood. To interrupt Silver's breathing, he uses the Screaming Eagle as a counterattack, showing he had also been training in Johnny's style. Last but not least, to take away Silver's sight, he uses the crane kick, the technique that Silver mocked as the crane crap, and even taunted with "do the crane, Danny boy," knocking Silver into the glass just how Miyagi knocked Silver back, causing paint to fall on him, and Johnny knocked into the glass by Kreese. Mirroring Mike's loss to Daniel, the students throw their shirts on Silver, just how the crowd did to him back in 1985. Chozen says it's just a flesh wound, making reference to the classic Monty Python film. Johnny walks up to tell Daniel and says, "Alright, LaRusso," nodding to the end of the Karate Kid film where he says, "You're alright, LaRusso." Finally, just like before, Kreese fakes his death once again, as some things never change. Let's talk about some of my favorite things of the season, correct predictions, and overall thoughts I have. As if I couldn't get enough of him already in Season 3, I absolutely love Chozen in every scene that he's in, including his comedic delivery. I wasn't sure how well he'd mesh with the other characters, but he fits right in, and I love his interactions with the other rivals Daniel had from the 80s. I do love Mike Barnes in this as well, and hope he gets more screen time in the future, but I think he was handled pretty well, and it's nice to see him with so much more dimension compared to what he had in Karate Kid Part 3. I also love how a lot of the rivalries come to a slow and satisfying conclusion, specifically with Miguel and Robbie, and to an extent, Tori and Sam. It looks like I was right about Hawk having a somewhat significant storyline with Kenny, though it looks like this might be expanded later on in Season 6, as their fight ended controversially. I also called it on Sam being in some type of room and facing a dark representation of herself, which was a nice touch to her arc, and later on having redemption from her tournament loss. Kreese also did come to terms of the consequences of his actions in therapy, though it looks like it may have been somewhat in vain since he's now escaped and will be out and about come Season 6. I also correctly predicted that Tori would request some help from the LaRussos, though this was a strategy more so by Kreese to reveal that Stingray framed him. Although not quite how I predicted, Tori did help take down Silver by showing Cobra Kai his true colors and how he paid off the ref to secure victory. Although Kreese did not join the fight against Silver, I was right about Daniel reluctantly seeking some kind of help from him in prison. Another correct prediction was that Silver was responsible for Daniel's black eye, and Johnny and Chosen retaliated by defeating Yan Wu. This season was the best one so far, and I can only imagine what Season 6 will bring to the table now that Miyagi Fang will be on a global stage, Kreese escaping from jail, and former rivals are now working together. Just like Season 3, Season 5 ended on a positive note with somewhat of a hopeful outlook of the future, and honestly, this video took me so long because I've had so much fun rewatching the season from a fan perspective. I have plenty of other Cobra Kai analysis videos on the way, so stay tuned. Before I go, I want to give a quick shout out and thanks to my partners and affiliates. I now have official merchandise. Go to strifethewarrior.art or click on any of the merchandise below the comment section. If you're trying to prevent Miyagi Fame from breaking into your server and exposing your diabolical scheme, then you'll need some strong security to protect your information. Go to nordvpn.com/strifethewarrior or use coupon code strifethewarrior to get a NordVPN 2-year plan with a huge discount. You can use NordVPN to unlock Netflix and your favorite entertainment websites that are not available here in the US. You can connect up to 6 devices at the same time with one account. There is no data logging whatsoever, and it works even in China. NordVPN works with Windows, Mac OS, Linux, iOS, and Android, has a Chrome extension which is very user-friendly, and unlimited bandwidth. If you're not happy with it for any reason, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. With 7 All-Valley Championships under its belt, it's no wonder why NordVPN is a winner. If you use this code, you also help directly support my channel. So go to nordvpn.com/strifethewarrior or use coupon code strifethewarrior at checkout. Last but not least, I'm sure I have a good majority of gamers here in the audience, but did you know you can grab some excellent games while supporting charities at the same time? If you haven't already, you should check out Humble Bundle. They've raised over $200 million in charity since 2010 and feature a different charity site-wide every month. If you see a bundle you like, you can pay for what you want and in return get computer programs, games, ebooks, etc., and the proceeds support charity. Go to humblebundle.com and use my referral link in the description at checkout. These referral links help support the channel, so thank you NordVPN and thank you Humble Bundle. Let me know what you guys think down below. What was your favorite part of Season 5? If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like it, subscribe, share it with your friends, and comment, as these all help my channel grow. Also, if you like the dynamic of Cobra Kai, I highly recommend watching Tiger and Bunny. It's an anime about 2 superheroes overcoming their differences with a very similar dynamic that we see between Daniel and Johnny. Season 1, half of Season 2, and 2 movies are available on Netflix right now, with new episodes of Season 2 dropping next month on October 7th. I have a couple of videos out right now on who I believe to be the show's Johnny and Robbie, so check them out. Be sure to check out and subscribe to my second gaming channel. I'm trying to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers, and supporting this channel also helps me support my main channel. I'll be uploading more clips to this gaming channel, so stay tuned for that. Keep up with me on my socials via Instagram and Twitter. Shout out to my YouTube members, I appreciate the support. If you'd like to directly support the channel, consider becoming a member and enjoy perks such as VIP channels access in Discord, preview videos before release, 15% off of merch, members only live streams and chats, and more, all for only 99 cents. Thanks for watching, stay beautiful, stay awesome, and we'll catch you around next time.